Good morning, dogs, and welcome to another husbandry video. Today we speak about food. So the question I answer today is: how should I feed my fish? With what? How often? With which amount? So there are several different types of food that can be used for the several different stages of the fish. So the life of the fish can be summarized more or less in three big blocks. The first one is when the fish is very small, so from the day that hatch, so the day 1 to more or less day 10, I would say 10, 14, but for now let's say day 10. We will call it larval stage. The second stage is when from the larva it starts to grow and it becomes a small fish. And this go from day 10 to day, let's say 30, 35, it really depends. And the final stage is the adult stage, when the fish is adult, from day 35 plus until it dies. These are days, so day. In these three blocks, since the dimension of the fish are different, the fish needs a different kind of nutrition. Like any other animals, the nutrition of the fish is based on the macronutrients, so carbohydrates, carbs, proteins, and fat, plus micronutrients. These sorts of energy can be found in different types of food that mostly divide into big branches. So live food, live or frozen foods, let's say. Live, frozen, anyway deriving from a live source, so other animals. Or synthetic food. These two kinds of food divide by size. So there are small and big. That means suitable for this kind of fish that are small and can eat only small things, and this kind of fish that are big and so small thing will not be enough for them, they need big things. So for synthetic food it's easy, no? Because synthetic food more or less are granules that can be, in the case of small, micro granules or macro granules, or flakes. Of different dimension, of course. So the synthetic food is something that was created from some sources of these nutrients combined, should be optimized for fish, and is synthetic, it is dehydrated, it rehydrates in water and should feed the fish and give them all the nutrients that they need. I will come to this in a second. Live food or frozen food are animals, okay? So small, for example, are brine shrimps, also called artemia, and worms, of course little worms, while big food usually are Daphne or Chironomus. Chironomus, also called the bloodworm. Brine shrimp or Artemia, it's very little shrimp. Under the microscope look like this. It's very orange. And brine shrimp is very useful because it's sterile, because what is sold from companies are eggs of brine shrimp that you can hatch in 24 hours. There are hatchers everywhere you can buy on Amazon or wherever. You can hatch a very huge amount of brine shrimp every day, and the nutrient content of brine shrimp is really good. So brine shrimp are super useful for growing fish in the larval stage. Okay, so Artemia or brine shrimp is the same, or also a bit bigger fish. Artemia and brine shrimp are different names for the same thing, that are these little shrimps. The other mainstream live food that is delivered to the fish is Chironomus or bloodworms. Bloodworms are the larval stage of a mosquito that look actually like a worm, even if it's not a worm. It's bigger than brine shrimp, it's 100 times bigger, and is very useful for feeding adult fish. So here we have bloodworms. And if the small fish is small but not as small, so it's big enough, it's very good to feed also this kind of fish. Also, bloodworms are very easy to find. For sure, frozen bloodworms are very easy to find. Live one, not that much, but I mean, it's not impossible. And which one is the best? So, the best is bloodworm of good quality. So the bloodworm has to be very red, shiny red, glowing red. So if it starts to get brownish, darkish, blackish, then it's not that good anymore. Or at least the quality decrease compared to a shiny red bloodworm. My suggestion to maximize the quality of bloodworm would be find someone that can ship you bloodworms alive, so you can check that they are very red and they are very active and not deaf and they don't look smelly or sick. And after that you check the quality, you can just leave them in water 1 night or 2 nights, and then after that change the water and freeze bloodworms in tanks where you can put at the bottom, let's say 0.8 1 centimeter of bloodworms and water. You put this in fridge, they freeze, and the morning after you have your tablets of bloodworms that you can store for 6 months to 1 year in fridge or deliver to the fish. So you just crack a small piece of ice and bloodworm and you give to the fish. Instead, if you prefer live bloodworm, be careful because after usually 1 to 2 weeks from the delivery, the bloodworms are not good anymore. So they start to die, they start to get contaminated, so be careful with that. Instead, the brine shrimp you can hatch every day, so every day it's fresh. Worms and Daphnia are complicated. Worms because finding very small worms that can be maintained easily and then can properly feed the fish with what they need is very difficult. I don't know any standardized worm that can be produced in large amount every day to feed all your small fish. Daphnia, the same. If you need to maintain Daphnia, you need more space for the Daphnia culture than for fish. not exactly like this, but you really need a lot of space. So I would not recommend this. But if you have the possibility of having this in a very fast and cheap and available way, go for them. So from now, the message that I hope to deliver is that you should feed, or at least in my experience, the best combination is to feed the small and the very small and the small fish with artemia, and the small fish and adult fish with bloodworms. This to achieve the maximum rate of everything, of health, of growth, of egg production, of fish happiness. Which are the disadvantages? The disadvantages are that if for any reason the food quality is not that good, you can have infections or contamination, or the health of your fish can slowly lower. That means that if you feed your fish with live food that is poor quality, so is not high quality live food, progressively you can see a reduction in the growing rate, in survival rate, in egg production, and in health. In the worst scenario, you can have a massive infection due to food quality that can potentially create serious problem to your colony. So the question now is, why not using synthetic food to avoid problem of contamination or bad food quality? Because your feeding must have one main purpose, and this purpose is to have at any time and over time good growth rates, health, egg spawning, and a reasonable lifespan. And I would say that all these parameters are connected. So what does it mean? That if your food is not the best, you will have fish growing not that well. So keep in mind that the fish must reach sexual maturity within 3 to a maximum of 5 weeks at 27, 28 degrees. This is a must. So if this is not achieved, it means or that the density of the fish is too high, or that the food is wrong. Then, when they are mature, they must spawn egg in a reasonable amount. That means that a couple of fish must give you at least at the end of the week between 20 and 50 eggs. Minimum. So from a couple you can have way more, but minimum you have to have this number. And the lifespan must be reasonable. So if you are working with a strain that should live averagely 3 months, 3 months AVG, well, then this strain must live averagely 3 months. If it live in average 1 month, it means that something is wrong. Maybe the food is corrupted and is killing your fish too early. If it starts to live very long, it could be that your food is not caloric enough, so they are constantly in food deprivation that will extend their lifespan. This is the last step. So I'm sure that if the food is not good, the early symptoms will be a bad egg spawning and growth rate. And this will of course bring you to a different lifespan than expected. So why no synthetic food? It's not a no, but in my experience, a synthetic food that can fulfill all these points has not been created yet. So I tried some food and the fish survive. The fish survive and they grow well, and they also live as much as they should live. But for example, for eggs, the calories of these foods are not enough. So usually if you feed your fish in synthetic food, the egg spawning is really poor or absent at all. The health condition with synthetic food are better, I mean, because they don't have any way to get pathogens. Synthetic food is completely sterile, but these destroy all the other conditions that you need for your experiment and for any other scientific purpose. So it's useless to have a fish that don't get sick, that don't die, when you are working on something that should be fast growing, fast dying, heavily egg spawning. Okay, so the food must always match your purpose. So for now, until someone will create a food that will convince me that is able to achieve all this point, I would recommend to give this kind of food to the different type of fish. The amount that every fish requires is not that much, is usually less than you can expect. Now, don't feed with nothing, I mean, give them some food but not too much. Usually you should give the amount that the fish can eat within 5 minutes plus something more. That means now with Artemia it's complicated, just put some Artemia in the tank. With bloodworms, for an adult fish, more or less, so for a small fish it's 1-2 bloodworm, for an adult fish is 7 to 12 bloodworms. It always depends also by the size of the worm. So give this amount plus a bit more. How often? Usually I suggest 2 to 3 times during working days and 1 time during the weekend. Of course, if you give food 3 times per day, you will give a bit less each time. If you give food only twice per day, you will give more food. You separate the feeding schedule, less food you give every feeding. Always by the rule, give a bit more than they can eat, not that much more. Then, if a fish does not eat, he will die. No, an adult fish that does not eat will survive. Over the weekend, if you don't feed the fish, this fish will not be at the best, so probably the egg production will lower, the fertility will lower, but it still will survive. So if you have some strain that you don't actually need to be productive or whatever, or experimental, or you don't need for almost anything, you just need the strain to be there, you can also not feed during the weekend. Different is for the larva stage, so small fish must be fed at least once per day, because they will have serious effect on growing and on health if not fed every day. So I hope that this picture on how to feed a fish was clear enough. I hope to haven't forgot anything or anything important. Remember that you are what you eat. See you next time. Bye.